Be sure to watch the previous video I made called UTC GMT Local and Unix Time. PHP time is the Unix time, which is the UTC time, which is the GMT time, and it is measured in seconds since 12 a.m. January 1st, 1970 in Greenwich, England. The PHP date time class is our friend. Whenever in doubt about which PHP functions or classes to use related to time, go back to the date time class. PHP determines the local time of the server by looking at the time zone configured in its configuration and a database which adjusts the time for daylight savings time. When I say local time of the server, that depends on the location. I have a server at home in Baltimore, and I have a server, the production one, is in Michigan. They're two different time zones. So what determines the local time of the server? I will tell you. It is the configuration. Since I configured both of my servers for the New York, America time zone, then it doesn't matter where in the world they are. Their local time is the New York, America local time. So how does PHP figure out what time it is on the server? Well, it's New York time. But New York time changes depending on daylight savings time. That's where an internal database comes in, which helps PHP figure out the actual time. And this is all based on a timestamp. The timestamp, it doesn't matter what time zone, what location, what configuration setting, or all those don't matter for the timestamp. This all comes into play when converting a timestamp into a local time. This is a list of PHP time zones. Here's my time zone in Baltimore. It's America/New York. When you're converting a timestamp into a local time, PHP looks at what you said was the location. So in my case, it will look at America, New York. It does not look at, I'm in the Eastern Standard Daylight Savings Time Zone or the Eastern Standard Time Zone. I mentioned those in the other video. So that has to be determined by the database, which I just mentioned right before this. For example, on the East Coast of America, in Baltimore, every year the government decides which date to switch over from Eastern Standard Time to Eastern Standard Daylight Savings Time. That cannot be determined by this string, America/New York. That has to be determined by a combination of this configuration setting right here and a database of knowledge, both historical knowledge and knowledge about the decisions the government's made for the near future. The entity which maintains this database, which PHP uses, is called IANA, and it's found at www.iana.org. They are the ones who discover the historical data and find out the decisions of the local governments about what they call representative locations around the globe. So on PHP 7, where do I set the time zone? Here I am in etc PHP. Let's see what we have in here. We have a directory called 7.0. Let's go in there. Without going into these two directories, I'm going to tell you what's in them. These two directories have the main php.ini. One is for serving up web pages and one is for PHP on the command line. Now, each one of those PHP ini files has a time zone configuration. However, I set mine in a custom.ini. So after the web server reads the configuration from the main php.ini, it loads my custom.ini. So let's go cd mods available. Okay, there's custom ini. Okay, so let me do nano. In my custom.ini, I specified date.timezone equals America, New York. All right, let me get out of this. Let's go to the main ini because there's another directive which is also for specifying a time zone. So let's go up. cd apache 2. Okay, let's do nano php.ini. Let me search for zone instead. So control W. Okay, so apparently in this file, there is no time zone set. Okay, I'm gonna do the command line php info. Okay, enter. So the default time zone is America, New York. And date.timezone is America, New York. All right, now where did this get set? Here's what I've concluded. There are two settings for time zone in PHP. One is referred to as default time zone, and one is referred to as date.timezone. This one, date.timezone, is the one that I've set in my custom.ini. This one, however, up here, which I did not set myself, was probably set up during installation. Somehow, PHP during the install found out that my default time zone is America, New York. And then it set that as its default time zone. By the way, the name of the database I was talking about is called the Olson Time Zone database. And here it is stored internally. It doesn't check it through an API through the internet. Okay, so that's just my findings on this subject. And I believe they've changed some things in PHP 7 so that you won't keep getting a warning saying that you didn't set your date.time zone. And there is some kind of historical backing which says that there's something called a TZ. It says reading the TZ environment variable. So maybe it reads this environment variable from the operating system. I don't know why it says prior to 5.4 because it seems like PHP 7 is doing this also. If I want to set the default time zone on a per script basis, this is the function I should use. Date default time zone set, and then specify the PHP time zone. I created in Firefox a folder for bookmarks called date time. Just like for my SQLi, I have this. I'm going to have something similar for date time to document the scripts which I have tested in the process of learning how to use date and time values in PHP.